Member for Maung West of Sasado.
Question number 3, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Land Management, Water and Sanitation Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. All the appointed Land Board members meet the requirements of the provisions of the Tribal Land Act, its regulations, and those stipulated in the advert for Land Board membership. My ministry considers active involvement in party politics as making public political statements, partaking in political party campaigns and rallies while serving as a Land Board member or in public office. Mr. Speaker, my ministry decided to remove the requirement that prospective applicants should not be involved in active politics because such a restriction was unfair. Thus, every Motswana, irrespective of political affiliation, was given the opportunity to apply. Upon appointment, however, the contract is very clear that the appointees should not be active in politics while serving in the Land Board. Mr. Speaker, some of the appointed Land Board members were not shortlisted for the interviews. Statutory Instrument number 29 of 2017 allows the minister to appoint to a Land Board a person who is not in the list of candidates submitted by the Land Board Selection Committee. Statutory Instrument number 29 of 2017 was applied in situations where there was a huge difference in age, qualifications, experience, competencies, or geographical representation of villages, especially within the sub-land boards, as well as to balance gender and to ensure inclusion of people from remote area settlements so that they could be empowered. In situations where there was imbalance in competencies, the provisions of this instrument were applied, and this was done in consultation with the Land Board Selection Committee. Mr. Speaker, it is not true that younger applicants with tertiary qualifications were overlooked in favor of older applicants with other qualifications and allegedly no experience in land administration. My contention is that when appointing the current Land Board members, we had the best interests of the youth at heart. That's why we made sure that the boards across the country comprise of the youth, and some of these youth hold positions of the Land Board chairperson or Land Board vice chairperson. For example, Tonota Soronga and Lintsoletau sub-land boards are chaired by youth between the ages of 30 and 34 years. Mr. Speaker, allow me to indicate that out of the entire board members appointed, I appointed 94 youth, out of which 90 hold tertiary qualifications, and out of these 94 youth who were appointed, 62 of them are women and 32 are men. Further to that, 12 out of the 62 women hold the positions of chairperson or vice chairperson, while 4 of the 32 young men hold chairperson or vice chairperson positions. The list of the board members who have been appointed is now public knowledge, and they are on duty. Thus, they are not appointed, but rather existing board members at present. As for the list of those called for interviews, that's an internal process that cannot be disclosed. The list of existing board members is in the public domain at the respective land board. And this is also in accordance with Standing Order 38.1M, which states that an honorable member may not ask for information which is in the public domain. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Supplementary.
Supplementary.
Ke a go leboga motsamaisi dipuisano. ke ne ke re tona re bolelle gore ka gore go kile ga go appointiwa batho ba ba neng ba le active mo dipolotiking ko di-landboarding mme puso ya tsaya tshwetso mo dingwageng tse di hitile gore e emisa tsamaiso eo ga re go ne go le unfair ga kae ka gore tshwetso ne e le gore dipolotiki di se ka tsa tsenelela merero ya lehatshe a seo se rantšha ba ya go tswana gompieno ke gore wena o bona go siame gore dipolotiki tsa di-party jaanong di tsengwe mo teng ga di-landboard tshwetso e kileng ya emisiwa le potso ya ntlha potso ya bobedi ke gore ga o re lo ka se ka lantsha list ya batho ba ba neng ba apply-ile ba ile di-interview le di-qualification tsa bone o re go internal palamente ke yone e irang oversight tiro ya rona ke go tlhodumela se lo se dirang gore lo tsamaisa lo lebile eng ga o kganela palamente gore e sekaseke ditshwetso tseo di tsereng ka di tsa setšhaba a wa tlhaloganya gore go ga re bua ka madi a e seng a gago e seng a lephata la gago o le nosi e seng a party ya gago re bua ka madi a batswana o batla go accountela ko go mang ga o gana go tla go accountela mo palamenteng ya bogelo a mme mapolotiki a o kgonneng go a bona o batla go a isa ko di-landboarding go tsamaile yang gore o bone ba tomokera ga hela o se ka bona ba party ipe gape
Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The first question, or why was it? Why did we change? We tried to parallel our recruitment process. How he rogo the rejocormente? How wanna close it tangerinya? How about the Horobo Ukaskikana Ubonile active multi-party politics? So we found it to be unfair to deny a certain cohort or section of the population the opportunity to the application. Why are we refusing list about interviewing? But by interviewing tens of thousands of people. But as with the civil service, when you're interviewing people, I've not come across a situation where Parliament or a subcommittee of Parliament wants the list of every single person who has been interviewed. And also, I don't know how this will exactly assist, because if the issue is to find out why some board members end up being board members without being interviewed, I clearly stated that there's a provision which allows for board members to be appointed into the board without having been interviewed. The statutory instrument of 2017. The last question was why did we appoint BDP members, or why did we appoint a lot of BDP members? I am not aware. I am not aware of the political leaning or inclination of the people who were appointed, because firstly, we do not ask their political leaning or ideology. Secondly, they did not disclose to us. It's an assumption. It's an assumption for you to think that that person is a member of the UDC when, in fact, they voted for the BDP or whatever the case may be. We did not ask, we did not investigate, we were not interested in the political inclination or political background of the people who were appointed. Neither did they tell us that information. We don't know. We just have a lot of hearsay, a lot of assumptions, a lot of people saying, these are BDP members, these are, why did you not appoint UDC? We are not into BDP and UDC. All we are saying is that we appoint people based on the merits of their application and what we required as the recruiting agency or entity.
Further supplementary.
Further supplementary.
Supplementary.
Further supplementary.
Supplementary.
On a point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order.
Ke batla go tlhaloganya gore ga tona a boditswe potso a ba emela re ga ke bone go tlhokagala gore ke go neele information eo ka gore ga ke itse gore e tla go thusa ka eng nna ke na le mabaka gore ke eng ke tsentse Roman 4 ene a ba emela re ga ka nneela maina a batho ba neng ba interviewa ka gore ga a itse gore ke a batlelang gape a mantsi thata ga ke tshwenyege ka palo ya bone ke Mr. Speaker a go irwa yang ga tona a gana go dira se se kopiwang ke mo palamente mme go sena molao o mogang thata ya go gana.
Mr. Speaker, on a procedure. On a procedure.
Honorable Rapid.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, and good afternoon. Mr. Speaker, it has never been a reason in this House that an honorable minister can refuse information on account of the quantity of whatever information he seeks or that is sought by an honorable member. It has never happened. What Honorable Muzwinla can do is to make it clear to the Honorable Speaker that I have a list here that I will annex to the answer and give to the honorable member. Yeah, but he can't refuse on account of the length or otherwise of the answer. He can't. The standing orders actually provide that if the answer is too long, he can provide that information.
Order, members. Of course, ministers are answerable to Parliament. There's no question about that. The only provision I'm aware of which will allow for a matter not to be revealed is on account of secrecy. That's the only standing order that I'm aware of. No other. So, Minister, the issue of the length really doesn't arise because whatever the reasoning is for wanting to know, that will be revealed if it's relevant at all. A situation where the standing orders do not come into play cannot be brought forward on account of some examples which I thought we wanted to make of interviews in the public service. But we go strictly by the standing orders. Minister?
I thank you, Honourable Speaker. With your permission, I'd like to read Standing Order 38.1a.
Please.
A question shall not include the names of persons or statements which are not strictly necessary to make the question intelligible. Close quote. And with your permission, I would like to read Standing Order 38.1m. A question shall not be asked seeking information which can be found in accessible documents, or ordinary works of reference, and which is readily available in official publications. Close quote. Honourable Speaker, these two standing orders are the reasons why I am extremely reluctant and extremely hesitant, and I think it will be unprocedural for a list of this nature to be furnished in light of these two standing orders. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Further point
Procedure.
of order, Mr. Speaker.
On a point of procedure.
Zinila. The standing order that we have referred to, 38, as I understand the reading, no. Point what? A question shall conform to the following rules. A question shall not include the names of persons or statements which which are not strictly necessary to make the question intelligible. I'm going to listen to try and help when you don't know what I'm thinking. Because you're not going to be helpful when you do that. Now, the quarrel, as I see it, Minister, from the supplementaries, was that the people who you appointed were skewed toward the BDP. Whether that list would show that or not, but you had an answer, I think, to that, that in terms of what you have, your definition of those involved in politics has changed from what Mr. Asando understood to be involvement in politics. It does not mean if somebody has been involved in politics or in campaigning, they then become disqualified. Because we are saying that was looked at as disadvantaging a cohort, as you put it. Now, the second part of your reaction, Minister, as I understood you, does not appear to help. So we have to ask ourselves the meaning of names which will not make the question intelligible, to include the names. If you look carefully at that study order, what is needed, the question did not include the names. The question wants the names of you. What we are saying, Minister, is that the answer should not include names, or a question should not demand names. And we get ourselves embroiled as to whether, in fact, what is the evil intended by that standing order? Or rather, if we had time, a legal counsel to help us. But as I said, I don't want to appear to be a legal counsel to either side. But that was my preliminary understanding. And so we may ask legal counsel her understanding of Standing Order 38 as alluded to by the Honourable Minister, whether it extends to a requirement of a revelation of the names.
Where do you say, Mr. Speaker?
Procedure, Mr. Speaker.
Minister, you want to throw light before council advises us?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What I'm just trying to assist with here is that the gist of the honourable member's question is to ascertain whether they may predominantly BDP members or not. That is the gist that I understand that the question is. Now, if that is the gist, and we accept that as the basis for the question, then releasing of the names would also hinder or injure 38.1I. I said we should look at 38.1A and 38.1M. But the requesting of those names also injures 38.1I. May I read it, Mr. Speaker?
Procedure, Mr. Speaker.
Procedure, Mr. Speaker.
I've asked legal counsel for help. I've understood you, Minister. I'm sure legal counsel was also listening.
Procedure, Mr. Speaker. Procedure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, honorable members. Mr. Speaker, my understanding of Standing Order 38.1A, which reads as follows: a question shall not include the names of persons or statements which are not strictly necessary to make the question intelligible. And my understanding of this standing order, as read with the question that the honorable member has asked, is that, okay, I'm going to use the words, in my opinion, as I understand it, is that in the honorable member's opinion, the disclosure of the names will render his question complete and answerable, in that it will make the question, in his opinion, it will make the question intelligible as opposed to being unintelligible. And Mr. Speaker, as for Standing Order 38.1I, which the Honorable Minister has just cited, which reads, a question shall not be asked for the purpose of obtaining an expression of opinion, the solution of an abstract case, or the answer to a hypothetical proposition. Mr. Speaker, my understanding of this standing order vis-a-vis the honorable member's question is that the honorable member simply wants a full disclosure of the candidates which were appointed by the Landboard or which were shortlisted, if I understand, yeah, which were shortlisted. Something to me which I would assume, Mr. Speaker, that it should be in the public domain, because appointment of members to public office positions are conducted in a transparent manner. So in my opinion, Mr. Speaker, I do not think the honorable member's question is in any way contrary to the provisions of the standing orders. Because if that was the case, Mr. Speaker, the question would not have been in the order paper in the first place. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Members, you are not very helpful. You can't turn around and say, Araba, legal counsel was giving advice. In a case where, as you know, we do not seem to agree, the Speaker is one given the powers by you to make a final decision. Yes, this is standing order number 2. I've got final power. But the issue really is, and I thought If you understand the quarrel, as I do, and Mr. Asano will probably correct me, the quarrel is you proceeded to appoint persons to the land boards in a manner that favored, to put it roughly, the BDP. So your interview, who you called for interview, resulted, if I understand you, in you getting to that. It's not a question of those who have been appointed, because those are in the public domain. Everybody knows who has been, and you can find out who has been appointed to the land board. It's those who have not. My suspicion is, as he say, you see, we say about to have Basi Bahalu. Ate minor terrible. But, Minister, please.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Our lists do not state whether a person is BDP or UDC. Thus, the information that the member requires is not in our list, which is what I'm saying, that the information that he requires in Roman numeral number 4 is twofold. The first information he requires is a matter of public info, or it's in the public domain. He can go to the land board and get that information of those who are appointed, who are existing members. The second information which he requires is to find out whether there was disproportionate number of BDP members or UDC members or EP members or BPF members. We do not have that information. Thus, us releasing information to further his interest or his questioning would be a futile exercise. There is nowhere in our information where we've documented the political affiliation or even the political assumptions, because a person can be assumed to be BDP, but in reality be UDC, and vice versa.
On a point of order.
So this information is not available. Thank you.
No. Further point of order, Mr. Speaker. Ke batla gore ke tlhalosetse ko Roman 4 ke ne ke ra re bolelle gore ke mabaka a ileng gore o na itlhokomolosa banana ba ba neng ba kopile go nna maloko a land board ba na le di-tertiary qualification a ba tsaya ba ba golwane mo go bone mme ebile ba sena di-tertiary qualification ebile ba sena experience e ne e leng a re ga go boammaaruri seo re ka se confirma hela ga a ka re neela list e re e batlang ko the following point Roman 5 gore go siame yaanong re neele list ya ba neng ba applyile ebile ba shortlistilwe yotlhe ya ba appointilwe ha e le gore o gana ka yone go siame re tla tsaya ko landboarding mme nna ga ke se ke re mphe list ya mathomo ke ragale ma-UDC ka re neele list ko number 5 the list full list ya batho botlhe ba appointilweng and the qualifications they hold as yone eo e ka confirma gore a o boeletse boammaaruri ko number 4 tse dingwe ra itse gore ga a bolele boammaaruri tsa gore ga a itse gope gore na le mo phathing e le ene wa a itse gore ga a bolele boammaaruri yaanong gore re bone gore a lekotse go diwa ntse ga a bolele boammaaruri go a tlhokagala gore a tise list ya gore ke bomang ba e leng gore ba ne ba shortlistilwe for appointment and the qualifications tsa bone ke kopa gore minister ke la ntlha re bona motho a sia ba sia go tisa information mo pusong ye e reng yone e batla go tsamaisa ka transparency
On a point of order.
Minister, that question, I think, that's why we had said something about revealing persons who have been called for interviews. Now it's being contextualized so that you can better reply the last part of 3:5, Roman 5.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The first issue, just on a point of order, when the honourable member is casting aspersions saying that I'm not telling the truth. When I say that I do not know the political inclinations of a person at the time of application, which is the truth. At the time of application, I do not know whether the person is still in the UDC or still in the BDP. It can only be confirmed at the time of application. Are you in the BDP? Are you in the UDC? Are you in the BPF at the time of application? So I think the honourable member is out of order to state that I am not telling the truth, because that is the truth, because at the time of application, we don't know where they are. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, the honourable member is saying that he asked about the youth. If I was to go back to the answer, I specifically stated that, Mr. Speaker, allow me to indicate that out of the entire board members appointed, I appointed 94 youth. 94. That's the answer he wants. So I don't know what he wants now from the other list. 94 youth, out of which 90 hold tertiary qualifications. The other issue, as the honourable member is talking about, is their level of qualifications. And I'm clearly stating that the 90 hold tertiary qualifications. 62 are women and 32 are men. Further to that, 12 out of the 62 women hold the positions of chairperson or vice chairperson, while 4 out of the 32 men hold chairperson or vice chairperson positions. The issues of youth I've answered, the issues of tertiary qualifications I've answered out of the total number. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I think, Minister, your quarrel with the other member is really the last couple of words, as well as the full list of all those that were called for interviews. In other words, if they say, for the 94, the number you gave, of youth, whatever, you had called 200, just an example, as the full list. That will be the full list of all those who were called for interviews. That's just the gist part of it. Why he cannot find the BDP or UDC from the list, because it won't tell him, as you rightly say. Is then the full list, whether we have any reason for not giving the full list of persons who have been called for interview, for which number we then selected the 94, the youth. Kapinga?
Ke a leboga, Mr. Speaker. Kana mo Roman 5, Mr. Speaker, go kopilwe gore tona a re he list ya batho ba appointilweng le di-qualification tsa bone. Jaanong a re information eo is in the public eye. Ha ke tsora ra gore leader of the opposition a tsamaye le Landboard tsotlhe a batla di-list. Go na le gore ene le ministera yo o kametseng di-Landboard a consolidate the list eo hela ya gore ko Landboarding ya smamang go appointilwe the following people, and these are the qualifications they hold. Gore tle re bone tota gore ga ba appointelwa gore ke madom kraga hela. Ke a leboga, Mr. Speaker.
I think that part, Ambassador Kapinga, that part, the minister is right. The persons he appointed can easily be found. I'm not sure about the qualifications, whether it will be easy once I go Landboard, but whether they can be found. Now, I think we have spent quite some time on this issue, and unless, Minister, you can indicate to me the great difficulty of producing the list which was given to your office to go through so that you can appoint, unless somebody can give a reason why that list cannot be made available, I want to make a ruling.
Procedure, Mr. Speaker.
No, I'm asking the House
Procedure.
have to reason out
Procedure, Mr. Speaker.
on that one.
Procedure.
Procedure.
It's not a question of procedure. Somebody to indicate the difficulties of availing that list which we know the minister has. That was his effect. Because we are not asking for something which he doesn't have. The list which was brought to his ministry, that is the list being asked for. Now I'm asking whether anybody knows of any difficulty in the reading of our standing orders, because I can't see one, but I would rather have your benefit.
Just a question, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I kopa go question. Go question a precedent that might be set. Ya gore kana these are public entities tse di tsamaisiwang ka makgetho a Batswana. Jano etare ka moso ra itse gore mo to be appointed to a public entity. Motho o tshwanetse gore a ba a meeta di certain criteria. E tabeng e beilwe. Jano ha go buiwa ka di qualifications gompieno e be re ka ya re go bohello ya nna gore go tatswa mo go minister gore a batla go ntsha list kana ha kita intsha will be setting a very dangerous precedent in this house e leng gore ano re tlo pallwa ke gore re fulfill a constitutional mandate e clear gore ministers ba ta account to parliament. So nane ke re Mr. Speaker you ne e lebello thata e gore go se ka ga tswa mo go minister gore a o tantsha list kante ha ga ya ntsha list ka will be setting a very dangerous precedent.
Procedure, Mr. Speaker.
Procedure, Mr.
Word
Speaker.
of
Let me
caution.
ask Council to advise on something which was pronounced by the minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I just wanted to maybe make a correction to the standing order that the other standing order, that the third standing order that the Honorable Minister cited, which is standing order 38.1M. Just to advise that the standing order that he cited, standing order 38.1, was amended on the 6th of December 2017, and it no longer reads as the minister quoted it. It reads as follows: a member may ask a question seeking a statement from a minister. That is standing order 38.1M. It does not preclude the minister from providing information that is already in the public domain. I thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just wanted to make a correction for the Hansard.
Leader of the House.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Totana kene ke kopa gore gongwe ba malao ba re thuse thata go potso di boditswe. And as far as I'm concerned, honorable member has responded. Ya ka no go khoutua mo go 4 o e arabile. Go 5 o e arabile. And the issue, yeah, the full list of all those that were called for interviews. Kana ya nongha, just as much as you are demanding the right to know. Leba hoting maina bone a isiwe ko go ba ba batlang go itse. Le bone ka gore ga ba hirwa. Ba ka nna ba re ne re sa ha minister a tetla ya go ntsha maina a rona. Baka rialo. And how does the minister then respond to that? Minister Rauna Letata, Mogobaba Hirili, Isemba Elengoriano, they are no more in his domain. Kanaku, Uno Husupala or Oshot list Ilevat, Haba corner. Yano, why should he then be going there? Serenland let Katao Mohos and go, who hear man. I came a dom Karakan, I came a UDC. And now, Mr. Speaker, I want to make it publicly known here. Ko Kaulonia Yeke meeting. More pizza and more possible Landboard. Hona labor to violent horror. Banaba meeting topoka ko UDC, like a VDP. The key point, a minister Raibu and Kohor. Ha go itsewe gore gongwe ba ne ba ntse jalo mme ba sa declare ko go ena se a se buang ke gore at the end of the day ga jaanong ba setse ba hirwa ba saena konteraka ya gore lo seka lwa supa bo BDP jwa lona kgotsa bo UDC jwa lona, and that is what he has responded to. Ga ke itse gore jaanong go batliwa eng ka batho ba e leng gore ga ba tlhole ba le mo controlong ya ga minister. Ke a leboga.
Procedure, Mr. Speaker. Procedure.
Other members, as I said, I needed your wisdom in how we should handle the issue of providing a full list of members they are appointed and the application they hold, but there has to be as well as a full list of all those that were called for interviews. As I understand, the leader of the House is saying, where would the minister get the permission to reveal the names of people who were called for interview if he availed that to Parliament? If we are afraid that the revelation would disadvantage or put such people in bad light, then obviously I would not be party to a situation where people want names, as a result of which persons who are not in a position to say anything about themselves will be disadvantaged. The problem is that I can't see how those persons who voluntarily applied to the minister and were called for interview will be disadvantaged if their names were revealed. What I propose to do, and this may not be in the standing orders, is to postpone this question so that I can reread the standing orders and we revisit it. Just in case we might do injustice to these persons who were involved, who applied. And I'll ask you, our members, to apply yourself to that question, whether revealing the names of persons who applied and were called for interview, as requested here of the minister, revealing those names would not prejudice and the implications for the future. My own inclination for now, I hope Council will also help me in the future, is that I can't immediately see the danger, but precisely because I can't see the danger, that at the back of my mind, I'm hesitant. Hence my feeling that I don't want to rush a ruling which I might regret by the morrow. So also I'm going to deliberately use the powers which you gave me to say this question too is not finished to that extent. I will bring it back after I have now revisited the standing orders and warn the minister in advance that the question is coming back, this last part only, so that we can feel that we are doing justice. Because and we should be very careful how we tread on it. But my own inclination, I think I should have a and be careful, So that is the ruling for now, our members. We'll come back to it.